Hi students, in this lesson I take you to the question whether the Indian culture and its television codes are same as that of Western television codes. If one has to understand that what Indian students are learning today about television as part of their curriculum is imported from the West. As such, these television production textbooks instruct students on the right way to produce programs. But is there really a wrong way to make TV, and who gets to decide the rules? When more and more US programming is exported to other countries through new communication technologies, the implications of this right way, wrong way approach for international television becomes troubling. Is television around the world beginning to look alike? If not, what does it look like, and what explains the differences? To explore these questions, I take you to some of the interesting findings of Elizabeth Birch and several other Western scholars. This also offers some theoretical anchoring for the de-Westernizing the media studies in India, about which I have been quite emphatic since the beginning of this course. To educate the student about how culture informs television production, drawing a line of distinction between India and the West. To analyze and to inculcate among the students about the aesthetic conventions applied to one highly successful television soap opera in India, in order to assess how the visual syntax perhaps differs from the professional norms of American TV. To inform the students about the culture as regards to how it acts as a methodological aspect of media literacy, and how aesthetics are bound in part by culture. In order to answer the above objectives, we will have to know how research on media literacy examines the interpretation and creation of media texts. According to Messaris and Moriarty, the link between culture and aesthetics is critical in studies on visual literacy, since it provides a context in which to base meaning. Culture refers to all socially transmitted and shared ways of thinking and acting. In its most basic sense, visual literacy deals with shared meanings of the creators and consumers of the visual messages. Thus, the concept of connotational meaning and analogical connection that Messaris and Moriarty discuss are highly relevant to the study of cultural aesthetics in visual literacy. Analysis of these visual cues or clues helps to develop the skill of spatial intelligence. In order to elicit analogical connections, such as the use of a production element to produce an intended emotion, producers should be aware of the message comprehension. In order to do so, they must also access the message's connotational meanings by going beyond the literal content of the images. Both processes are informed by culture-rich codes. As Messaris and Moriarty state, the benefits of culture-based aesthetic studies are of dual purpose, providing cognitive enrichment in the pursuit of visual literacy while teaching skills to evaluate and produce media. Analytical skills help viewers defend against the negative effects of potentially manipulative messages such as advertising. Equally important for producers in developing countries is the awareness of the harm that a highly westernized media can have on international cultural diversity. Communication scholars refer to the problem of westernization as media imperialism. Media imperialism is described as a one-way flow of the cultural products from Western countries to nations in the developing world, which result in a dependency for cultural goods and the homogenization of culture. A homogenized or globalized culture would begin to look the same, and some argue that the sameness would look American. In terms of visual literacy, this meaning that a uniformity of aesthetic would prevail despite the background of those creating or interpreting a message. Culture does create difference in society and the use of its cultural products. In the examination of visual literacy, audience reception studies show that the decoding process can be discussed in terms of culture because symbolic associations are culturally learned. For instance, Koch and Lieb's groundbreaking study of the American serial Dallas showed that varying cultural groups differed in their interpretation of the media text. This and other studies examining media imperialism suggested a counter model to the threat of Western dominance. Research into the regional success of Latin American soap operas, telenovelas, for example, provide evidence that developing countries produce programs that are competitive with Western media. Understanding the decoding process is important for those trying to create successful TV programs in developing countries, especially in parts of the world where television penetration is still relatively low. TV producers whose viewers are new to the medium say the interpretation should not be taken for granted. Hobbs, Forrest, Davis and Stauffer wrote that Systematic efforts to examine the comprehension skills of television naive viewers is essential if broadcasting is to be used to communicate information about agriculture, sanitation, nutrition and health care. McAfee suggested examining comprehension of users' one-dimensional visual media to understand how visual literacy is developed by television viewers. Seeing objects in reality is not the same as perceiving them in pictures, and pictorial object recognition often depends on prior experience. If people have already learned that a flat picture can represent three-dimensional objects, then they will be better able to understand that the image in those pictures connect with reality. Familiarity with a topic also helps with recognition. In this way, culture seems to play a factor. When Scottish and Zambian youth were compared in their recognition of motor vehicles and animals, it was found that the Scottish children could more readily separate the vehicle from the animals. They were better equipped to interpret the information because those in first world countries had more prior experience with machines and more experience with pictures of animals. Contextualism as a method, visual literacy and encoding. Another approach to examine what is decoded in visual literacy is aesthetic analysis of contextualism, which analyzes how texts are encoded. The term aesthetic derives from the Greek word meaning through the senses. Hegel wrote, aesthetics means precisely the science of sensation of feeling. Jettel defined aesthetics through a method of analysis called contextualism. Contextualism in the study of certain sense perceptions and how these perceptions can be most effectively clarified, intensified and interpreted through a medium such as television or film for specific recipient. The method facilitates the analysis of production elements in a narrative. Contextualism is also a useful analytical tool in understanding how audience read television by examining encoding. Likewise, the method provides new insights into cross-cultural research because classification and comparison of visual codes clarify how meaning generated through the media in other societies. TV aesthetics across cultures. Aesthetics can be examined in terms of its relationship to information retrieval in UNESCO report on cross-cultural broadcasting. Contreras discusses a community development project in Peru in which a film on hygiene was shown to villagers. The study reveals that the visual aid had failed to convey its intended meaning and message. The problem was that the audience perceived each scene and in some cases even each discrete shot as complete and separate incidents. When cutaways, separate close-up images of lice under a microscope were shown, people concluded that what they were seeing was an animal, not a bug that could get on a person's body. Most importantly, villagers did not infer that the information related to their own bodies. In India's neighboring country of Nepal, one exploratory study found that an understanding of local viewpoints and comprehension can serve television producers who hope to use the medium for education purposes. Health information in villages in Nepal is usually disseminated via visits by health workers because most people in the country do not have access to television. Villagers were shown a video on how to make rehydration solution. It was found that comprehension of the information in the video was low, primarily because the Western editing conventions used in the program confused viewers. Viewers were to learn that they needed to put 3 handfuls of sugar into a glass of water and salt in order to make the solution. Western aesthetic standards demand that the scene be edited down into a number of shots such as close-ups, medium shots of the health worker which provide various perspectives on the action. When the narrator said, now add 3 handfuls of sugar, editors cut at least one of the shots of the hands actually pouring the sugar into the glass. The expectation is that the viewer fills in the missing information. This is referred to as psychological closure according to contextualism. Yet the audience accustomed to such television techniques. Consequently, viewers did not learn the correct information from the video. It became clear that the program should show the information in one complete segment without any cuts. A cut is the most common form of editing transition. Continuity editing typically entails cutting shots together to maintain continuous action within a scene which preserves the illusion of reality. Yet understanding that the intended viewers would not be able to read the picture information, otherwise the non-Western aesthetic choice would be the more successful communication route. Aesthetic and Indian soap operas. In order to identify how aesthetics are regionally bound by culture, one can limit a study to specific genres and production elements within a society. Communication scholars in the West, such as Allen and others, have focused considerable attention on the television soap operas genre. Examining soap operas within a third world context, Singhal and Rosers discussed the edutainment value of the genre in developing countries such as India. In their evaluation of shows like Hum Log, We People and others, edutainment refers to entertainment education programs that intentionally place educational content in entertainment messages. The approach is an attempt to introduce development messages in ways that would draw viewer interest. Another very successful spin on the television soap opera model in developing countries is religious soap operas. The first of its kind, called Ramayana, was produced in India. The serial was aired to Indian and Nepalese TV audiences in 1987. Ramayana was aired again in 1999, and with the diffusion of satellite TV technology, viewers in countries with Hindu diasporic populations watched the program as well. Ramayana and other Hindu soap operas that spawned such Mahabharata are very successful not only in India but also regionally and beyond. Today, religious soap operas are widely available in Indian video stores in the United States. The program was produced by Ramananda Sagar, a famous Indian film director from the School of Hindi Cinema based in the western city of Mumbai, formerly called Bombay. Said to be the Hollywood of the East, Bollywood films are highly commercialized genre that incorporates songs and dance sequences as a matter of formula. Ramayana is obviously influenced by Hindu film style, but with a twist. Fantasy creates a supra-reality that incorporates the Hindu religion into the soap opera's form. The story of Ramayana chronicles the life of a Hindu hero, Rama, a human incarnation of Vishnu, the god of preservation. Rama is born on earth to restore the balance of good and evil in the world. A rich body of research on aesthetics within India offers insight into the popularity of religious television. Shukla referenced the ideas of the father of Indian aesthetics, Bharata, to assess scholarly views on the conception and use of dramas like Ramayana. Analysis of the Eastern media aesthetics. In order to analyze the Eastern media aesthetics, Burch has taken up Ramayana serial as a case study. She tried to address a few important questions related to the problem of analysis. She conducted a qualitative aesthetic analysis of the text of the first episode of Ramayana. The show was chosen based on the assumption that the beginnings of TV serial include the highest production values in order to attract a large loyal audience base. Jatil's sight, sound, motion, applied media aesthetics need to be the part of reading for many university students of television production in the United States. Analysis of Indian television aesthetics using Jatil's rules based on the first edition, because of Ramayana was produced before the second one, provided a vehicle for a cross-cultural comparison between Indian and US television. The visual conventions discussed are examples of analogy and denotation to the connotation. The four aesthetic fields included conventional usage of light and color, two-dimensional space, area and vectors of directional forces on the screen, three-dimensional space, screen volume through articulation of x and z axis, and visualization of field of view, camera angles and subjective camera, and time, motion through motion vectors and editing. Definition of these terms were presented in the context of the analysis because complexities warrant immediate illustration. Field 5, which deals with sound, is an extremely important element of Indian television and was examined but excluded from the chapter in order to focus on the visual elements of the production. An attempt was then made to analyze the analogical connections and the connotational meanings of the work as the viewers might decode them. This methodology brings into question the objectivity of the author. As a researcher, Burch has extensive fieldwork experience in South Asia and considers herself sensitive to the concerns about paternalism. Nonetheless, ignorance of aspects of Indian culture could bias the results. Therefore, special effort was made to incorporate feedback from Indian colleagues in communications. Another concern is that as an American television producer, her biases about professional standards could affect interpretations. Rather than shy away from the problem, however, this study attempts to explicate it. Jatil likely never intended his television production textbook to be used to imply the Western aesthetic was right while all others were wrong. The analysis simply compares the non-Western syntax of Ramayana with the results presented in Jatil's educational materials because they are widely used and respected by television departments throughout the United States. Structuring the first aesthetic field. The following discussion highlights a few of the differences between the fields represented in Jatil's television production textbook and the aesthetic standards are encoded in Ramayana. Of course, decoding by viewers of these elements requires an understanding of some of the aesthetic conventions in television. Miscommunication could result without these skills. Thus, assessments of perceptions are not generalizable without audience feedback. To begin, this study examines the effectiveness of communicating the narrative of Ramayana's text. According to Jatil's rules of television production, the first aesthetic field that should be investigated deals with the light and color. Painters and sculptors have always understood the importance of light in their work. Most of the scenes to be analyzed in the first episode of Ramayana used the typical television flat lighting technique known as Notan lighting. Provides basic illumination as opposed to chiaroscuro lighting that uses light and dark contrast to emphasize volume and mood. With the chroma key, one picture is electronically cut into another picture through the use of switcher. The technique is still used in television newscasts today during weather reports. In Ramayana, the first scene and many subsequent scenes depict conversations between the Hindu gods and goddesses, which are set in heaven where they are said to reside. The chroma key effect in Ramayana is used to make those scenes seem painted as in a painting on a stage for a play. The real actors in the scenes are electronically cut into the sets. Scene 1 of Ramayana depicts a conversation between the three gods Vishnu, Shiva and Brahma. The three together form an important religious trinity. Shiva and Brahma convince Vishnu, the god of preservation, that he must be reborn on earth as the son of king in order to save the world from demons' destruction. A split screen is a visual effect that shows two or more different images placed in separate parts of the frame at the same time. Filmed in split screen, the lower half of the frame is filled with a shot of the ocean, with the upper portion of the screen depicting the sun. The characters, including their followers, seem to float suspended, electronically imposed against a dense background that is painted to be shimmering. Shimmering may have been created by a key effect in the switcher. The technical aspects of the scene relate to the religious narrative, and audiences must know the story of Ramayana to understand that. Internal lighting effects are used in one more shot in this scene 1. The shot depicts the demon king's reign of terror over the earth. The devil's laughing face is chroma keyed behind a foreground of fighting warriors. Because of the size relationship, the face large and the warrior small, one can tell that he is inciting war among the humans. To those familiar with Ramayana, the scene also means the destruction of humankind and the imbalance of evil over the good. Chroma key effectively creates a representation of a Hindu spirit reality in Ramayana quite acceptable to Indian audiences. The interpretation of color provide an intense study of culture-based aesthetics in exploring the first aesthetic field, light and color. Anheim remarked that studies of color preference are likely to yield a reliable picture of the cultural setting. Color can function in three principal ways. It can either be informational, expressive or compositional. Jatil wrote that color associations are learned typically grounded in one's cultural experience. Color plays a peripheral information role in Ramayana. Costume colors, prop colors and in some cases even skin colors are used to conjure associations in viewers' minds. Without the prior exposure to Hindu mythology, viewers of Ramayana probably would not be able to identify many of the characters in the narrative. For instance, in terms of the many supreme being said to exist in Hinduism, the god Vishnu in Ramayana is depicted as having blue skin. Although Vishnu is not always represented this way, those familiar with Hinduism would know who he is exactly by who he is not if he is blue. Note the other gods described later. Other factors work along with cool colors, simple informational or cueing role because the character can also be identified by their mythological costumes and the props that surround them. Finally, on color that cues information to viewers, although Vishnu's skin is blue, in these scenes it should be noted that skin tone is an issue that factors into Hindu caste system, a religious hierarchy that predetermines the greatest privilege to those on the top. A more instrumental role for color in Ramayana is expressiveness, which functions to establish mood. Jatil said, the more intimate of introspective an event become, the more one can treat outer reality as low definition. Still, the aesthetic rule broken in Ramayana as it is in real life in India. For instance, high energy colors are used to portray the gods and priests. Likewise, in Ramayan's religious festival scene, characters wear the traditional red powder, tikas and red spot. The forehead, where the so-called third eye is said to be. These colors represent a holiness and a spiritual inner reality in Indian culture. Yet these high energy colors emphasize external reality by American TV aesthetic standards. Another point can be made about color. Throughout Ramayana, Jatil wrote that the compositional function of color is to help establish form. Colors can define, emphasize and de-emphasize certain screen areas in order to bring the energies of the pictorial element into a balanced yet dynamic interplay. This concept of balance, however, is highly subjective. American aesthetic standards. Ramayan's color combinations are often highly saturated under the Western rule of compositional balance of color combinations. Throughout the episode might be considered too dynamic to be harmonious. Yet Indian viewers see it differently. Therefore, what is a so-called dissonant or unbalanced color combination in one culture may not be viewed as such in another. Regarding the second, third and fourth aesthetic fields, the visual principles examined in the shooting of Ramayana involve several units of analysis that the Hindi producers manipulated to elicit viewer satisfaction with the production. Most pronounced are those shown within a celebration scene. There are three types of motion discussed in contextualism: primary event motion in front of the camera, secondary camera motion and tertiary editing. Dance is a primary motion. In aesthetic terms, Indian dancers are typically classically trained, although Indian folk dancing also has strong tradition. In an examination of the cultural influence of Hindi films on Indian television, Agarwal wrote that the Indian cinema is uniquely Indian. No more is this so than in the examination of the song and dance numbers that are standard formula in the genre. Because Ramayana borrows heavily from the Hindi cinema school, the dance scenes are similar to those found in many Indian commercial films. For instance, aside from the technical and religious aspects of these gestures in the dances, culture-specific gestures are included. Several aspects of the shooting of Ramayana are different from the typical commercial television in the United States. In some of the beginnings of the scenes in Ramayana, producers do not provide establishing shots. A wide shot that typically appears in Hollywood films in the first shot of a new scene to orient viewers to the location and time. This breaks a basic rule applied in most US TV programs. For example, the dance scenes start with medium close-up shots instead of wide shots. Why this is so and how viewers deal with this symbolic disorientation is not exactly clear, but the device is in contrast to American TV. In this lesson, I have brought to your understanding what visual production elements of Indian religious soap operas like Ramayana are aesthetically different from the so-called professional standards most widely thought to TV producers within the United States. The television producers know that choice of aesthetic codes is driven not only by technological innovation but also by formulas firmly grounded in cultures. In the case of Ramayana, traditional Western technical standards were not always applied to the four levels of production examined. Thus, one can hypothesize that Ramayana serves to counter charges that worldwide television is essentially similar. Of course, Indian television programs have evolved dramatically since Ramayana's showing in 1987. Continued research of this kind may show that Western professional television conventions are becoming more universal across cultures. Still, traditional Hindi films have not changed that much and powerful industries' influence on television is evident.